Hello, dear students. Today we'll be discussing about fundamental rights. This chapter on fundamental rights is going to cover all the six rights that are included in our Constitution. To begin with, what are fundamental rights? First, we have to know in which part of the Constitution they are. So, they are in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. They are also described as the Magna Carta of India, and the framers of the Constitution derived the inspiration of introducing the fundamental rights from the Constitution of USA, that is the Bill of Rights. And why are they named as fundamental? Because they are provided by the constitution, they are protected by the constitution, and we know that the constitution is the fundamental law of the land, the most important document which consists of all the laws of the land. And it is also referred to as fundamental. Why? Because they are very essential for the all round development of the individuals. So these are roughly all the fundamental rights. As you can see, it is from Article 14 to Article 32. We have all the rights which are mentioned. So we have the right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedy. So you can see here there are six, but originally there were seven fundamental rights, and the seventh one was right to property, but it has been removed from part 3. So it has been removed from part 3, which consists of fundamental rights, by the 44th Amendment Act of 1978, and now its status has changed into a legal right. So now it is a legal right under Article 30, under Article 300A, but it is no more a fundamental right. First of all, we are going to read about the right to equality. So this right to equality has been covered from Article 14 to Article. First of all, Article 14. Article 14 is a fundamental right that guarantees to not only citizens but also non citizens that everyone is equal before law. For example, there is a law regarding a particular aspect. So, if a person violates it, be it a citizen or a non citizen, they will be punished equally, and law will not be different for different persons. So be it the president of India or be it the citizen of India, a law is equal for all, and equal protection of law. So if a law is made, it will equally protect all the citizens. It's not that it will protect only the rich and will not protect the poor, or it will protect only the ones who are influential. The protection of law will be given to all, irrespective of any kind of, on any ground, be it race, caste, religion, sex. So all of these discriminations disappear, and law is equal for all. And this particular article shows that we have embodied the rule of law, which means that no man is above the law and all are equal in the eye of law. So right to equality is guaranteed under Article 14, and equal protection of. Second, Article 15. What does Article 15 says? The Article 15 says that the state cannot discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of caste, religion, sex, race, and place of birth. So the state cannot make any law which discriminates the citizens on these grounds. However, if the state wants to make special provision, for example, it is giving special treatment to women and special treatment to those who are backward classes, these cannot be challenged, that the state is discriminating and giving more favor to women and backward classes. So nothing in this article prevents the state from doing so. So Article 15 provides protection from state discrimination. Now Article 16. Article 16 provides for equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. For example, UPSC conducts the administrative services, the civil services exam. So that form is available to everyone. Everyone is given the opportunity to take the exams, to write the exams. So the state cannot discriminate, and all citizens are given equal opportunity. However, The state can also make reservation for those who are the backward classes. No, nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for those who belong to socially backward or educationally backward classes. So here Article 16 guarantees equality of opportunity for all citizens in case of employment or appointment to any office under the state. Now Article 17, we know that untouchability in any form has been forbidden, and it is an offense punishable in accordance with law. So no one can practice untouchability. It is a violation of the fundamental right, and Article 17 speaks about this concept of untouchability as being an offense which is punishable uh, in accordance with the law. Now, Article 18, abolition of titles. We know that during the earlier times, during the medieval and British India, we had titles such as Zamindar, Rai Bahadur, Savai. These were used as prefixes, but now no title, not being a military or academic distinction, shall be conferred by the state. However, if someone is Bharat Ratna or Padma Shri, they can add that. But apart from that, they cannot. No citizen of India can accept any foreign title unless and until it has been approved. So all these titles were abolished by Article 18 of the Constitution. So 17 talks about abolition or ending of untouchability, and Article 18 talks about abolition of title. Now we'll move on to right to freedom, that is covered from Article 19 to Article. What is Article 19? It is a cluster of six rights, means it is a combination of six rights. And what are these rights? The freedom of speech and expression. So you can express yourself, you can express your opinion, you can also assemble peacefully. That means if you have a protest, it can be a peaceful protest without arms. You can form unions where we know that there are trade unions, so they can form associations to put forward their demand. You can even move freely throughout India. You can reside and settle in any part of India. You can practice any profession, but all of these rights you have to exercise keeping in mind that the public order is not hampered. So if there is a association which tries to tamper or which tries to harm the public property or which tries to disrupt the public life, then such association or unions can be barred. But otherwise, if public order is maintained, then all the citizens have right to the following. Now, so we are going to now read about Article 20. It provides protection to citizens in respect of conviction for offences. For example, any citizen has committed an offence or has committed a crime. Now, what kind of protection is it giving to the individuals? Retrospective means backdated criminal legislation. For example, a person committed an act cannot be convicted for an act that was committed at a time when the act had not been declared by law as an offense, which means that, for example, prevention of dowry was made illegal in 1961. Dowry is also known as Dahej. So, for example, in 1961, taking of dowry was made an illegal offense. So, if someone has taken a dowry in 1952 or any date earlier than 1961, that person cannot be subjected to the punishment. Why? Because when they had taken the dowry, that time dowry was not an illegal act. However, after the act has been made, for example, the Prevention of Dowry Act has been made in 1961, anyone taking dowry after 1961 can be punished. But if someone has taken dowry before that, before the law was made, you cannot punish them for the act that is done in a backdated in a date from which that legislation had been passed. So, this was one aspect. Moreover, a person cannot be subjected to a punishment greater than what is prescribed by law. So, for example, a particular crime talks about 5 years of jail. So you cannot give someone 10 years of jail for that particular crime because it has not been mentioned in the law. So whatever the law says, if the law says 5 years for a particular crime, then you cannot punish someone more than 5 years for that particular offense. Second is double jeopardy. What it means, a person, for example, someone has committed a crime, for example, stealing, and has been punished once. So you cannot punish the same person more than once for the same offense. So this is double jeopardy. And prohibition against self incrimination. So this implies that, for example, a person has committed uh, a crime, he cannot be asked to give witness against himself. So you cannot force that man to admit that he has committed the crime. So you cannot make him his own witness. So these are the three protection which Article 22 gives to the individuals against the state in case they have committed a crime. Article 21 is a very, very important article. I must tell you at this point that although all fundamental rights can be suspended, but Article 20 and Article 21, these are the two fundamental rights which cannot be suspended even during the time of emergency. So what is Article 21? It states that no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty by the state except as per the procedure established by law. So within the law it is okay, but if no person, the state cannot deprive any person of his life and liberty outside the law. If the law is permitting, then it's fine, but the state otherwise cannot harm an individual and cannot take his life. And the second part is a amended part. Article 21A was added in 2002 by the 86 Constitutional Amendment Act. This is the famous Right to Education Act. It provides that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all the children between the ages of 6 and 14. So this is Article 21. Remember that Article 20 and 21 cannot be suspended during the time of emergency. Then Article 22, it deals with protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. So this right is given to both citizens and non-citizens. First of all, if someone is arrested or detained, first you have to inform them that why have they been arrested. Second, they can consult an advocate. So you cannot stop them from legal aid. They can consult an advocate. Third, they have to be presented before a magistrate within 24 hours. So you cannot deny or delay justice. You have to first of all inform the grounds of arrest. You have to let the person know that why they have been arrested. They have the right to consult an advocate who can defend their case, and they have to be presented before a judicial magistrate within 24 hours. So the idea behind this right is to prevent arbitrary arrest and detention. So if such a protection is not given, then there are chances that arrest can happen on arbitrary grounds. Now, right against exploitation, Article 23 and these are very simple, right? Article 23 prohibits traffic, that is, sometimes illegal trade happens, like human beings are smuggled and they are put up into prostitution and forced labor, such as bigar. So, this kind of thing is prohibited by Article 23, and Article 24 protects the children from employment, and especially employment in hazardous sectors. So anyone below the age of 14 cannot be employed in factory or mine. So it prevents any form of child labor. Now, right to freedom of religion. We know that India is a secular country. What are the right that it gives? citizens. Article 25, everyone, every citizen of India has the freedom to profess, practice, and even propagate their religion. They have the right to manage their religious affairs. So every religious group, they can establish their own institutions. Like the Christians can establish their church, the Hindus their temples, the Muslims can set up their mosque, the all the religion can set up their own charitable institutions, and they can manage their own affairs. Then Article 27, no person, no one can be forced to pay any tax for the maintenance of any religion. Uh, that compulsion is not there. And Article 28, in state aided institution, the institution which are receiving government funds, religious instruction cannot be forced. So, however, those institutions which are exclusively run require religious instructions, that can be done. But religious instructions in educational institutions that are maintained wholly, means completely by state fund, their religious instruction, providing of any religious instruction is prohibited. So this was the right to freedom. Cultural and educational right talks exclusively about the. So Article 29 says that any citizen, if they have a particular language, script, and culture, that is their own unique, distinct language, they can preserve the same, and no discrimination should be done against them on the ground of religion, race, caste, language, or any of them. And Article 30 maintains that all minorities, whether they are linguistic minorities or religious minority, they have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. So if a particular minority, for example, we know that we know about the concept of madrasa, so they are administrated by Article 30. Why so? Because the minorities have the right, so they have the right to set up an institution of their choice. So this protects their uniqueness, this protects their distinct identity, and this protects their language. So this was about the right to maintain distinct cultures. The last and the most important and the soul of the Constitution is the right to constitutional remedies guaranteed under Article 30. What is it? Article 32 confers the right to the individuals to move to the Supreme Court in case of violation of fundamental right. For example, I have discussed all the fundamental rights. However, if the state can violate them every now and then, and if the individuals do not have any way to protect their fundamental right, then there is no need of such rights. So Article 32, knowing that there can be chances of violation of fundamental right, it provides that in case any of the fundamental rights are violated, the individuals can straight away go to the Supreme Court. Though Supreme Court, what does the Supreme Court do? Thus, Article 32 gives Supreme Court the power to issue orders or writs for the enforcement of any of the fundamental rights. So, Article 32, first of all, what does it say? It says that the individuals can move to the Supreme Court in case of violation of fundamental rights. And secondly, the Supreme Court, to protect those fundamental rights, it can issue order for the enforcement. And not just the Supreme Court under Article 32, but Article 226 talks about a similar power that has been given to the High Court to issue writs for the protection of fundamental rights. So both Supreme Court and High Court have the power to issue writs for the protection or the enforcement of fundamental rights. And these are the five type of writs: habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and quo warranto. So, for example, we begin with habeas corpus. So, it is an order which is issued by the court to a person who has detained another person, to show that on what grounds an individual has been detained. Then mandamus is a command issued by the court to a public official to perform his duties. So, for example, a government servant or a public servant is not performing his official duties, then the court can issue such an order against a public body or a corporation and ask them to perform their duties. Then a prohibition is issued by a higher court to a lower court to stop them from exceeding their jurisdiction. For example, if a particular case does not lies within that court and still it is trying to interfere, then the Supreme Court can intervene and prevent them. Prohibit means to forbid. Then certiorari is issued by a higher court to a lower court to transfer a case. So for example, and a very important case is going on, and if the Supreme Court feels, they can transfer the case from the uh, lower court, and it can bring it to itself, and it can be used as a in case of excess of jurisdiction or lack of jurisdiction or error of law, then the higher court can transfer the case to itself. And lastly, quo warranto, that is, the writ is issued by the court to inquire whether the person who is holding a public office is doing so legally. So it prevents illegal holding of public office by a person. So these are the kinds of writs which protects the individual. Lastly, Article 32, as I told you, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar referred Article 32 as the soul of the Constitution and very heart of it. And what does this article emphasize? It emphasizes that ultimately the Supreme Court is the defender and the guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizens. However, I should mention here at the beginning that the Armed Forces, Article 33, empowers the Parliament that the fundamental rights of especially those who belong to paramilitary forces, police forces, and etc., it can be restricted considering public order, and in case of martial law also fundamental rights can be suspended, and even during times of emergency the fundamental rights can be suspended. However, Article 20 and 21, they cannot be suspended in any circumstances. So this was it for today's lecture. We'll discuss about the next aspects in the next lecture.